Kirk Franklin and Jonathan Majors was there.
Yeah.
And you guys were discussing Jesus, and you made a comment about, people can read about it, but you made a comment, Majors clapped back basically like, yo, maybe you need to read your Bible more, because he didn't like the way that you interpreted it, I suppose, about Jesus being someone like, he was saying like, you were saying you don't pray to your brother. What were you trying to say?
I was saying you should appreciate your brother and honor your brother, but Jesus and God should not be on the same plane. It's a thing that people say, well, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is are one.
All one.
That's true. That can be one, but that doesn't mean that they're on the same plane. So that's why you have a father. That's why you have a son. That's why you have children. So we're children of the Most High God. So we will never be on the same plane as God. I think the way I probably
did a sit down with Kirk Franklin and Jonathan Majors.
It probably created a little bit of misconfusion, but I mean, any person that really breaks down scriptures and breaks down God will understand that God sits here. There's nobody that sits on that throne with him or share the same vicinity.
Do you feel like there's an issue with Majors now, or are you good with Majors?
I feel like it's not an issue with Majors. I never had one. I do feel like it was tension going into the interview on his behalf because I've publicly said things, complimented Megan good about how he looks and stuff.
Oh, that's what it was about.
So like during the interview, it was like certain moments to where like I just felt like he kept trying to use the Megan thing to like, you know how people, as kids, people wave stuff in your face like, hey, I got this, you ain't got that. Yeah. But it wasn't even that, bro. It was like, you know, I respect whatever, you know, union y'all have. But it was like he kept, during the interview, it was moments where it probably created a little, just felt forced and it felt unnatural with how he was bringing her into the equation. And even like he brought her into the equation and said, you know, no disrespect to the young brother, as he looked off and like waved me off twice. Right. And then he looked up at the guy in front of him and made eye contact with him and said, and you know, no to you as well, Kev, but you did not look at me. You made no eye contact. You brushed me off and then proceeded to disrespect me. You feel me? So it was like, I just knew what was really going on behind the scenes. I knew that was something that he was pressed about.
When you're on a platform like Kirk Franklin, you kind of go into it thinking like, hey, we're about to talk about you know, spirituality and that's the thing, and like keep it positive.
Yeah, bro, that's the thing too. As I'm going into this meeting, I'm sitting down at this table. It's just I felt certain things were just like wasn't a reflection what I feel like Kirk stand for, and I just feel like, you know what I'm saying, no disrespect to Kirk, I know he's just trying to do, just felt for his thing, and I know he's, you know, he was trying to mediate everything, but I do feel like, you know, even the lineup was just kind of like, you know, it was just kind of weird to me. His thing, and I know he's, you know, he was trying to mediate everything, but I do feel like, you know, even the lineup was just kind of like, you know, it was just kind of weird to me. His thing, and I know. And Christianity.
Okay. So it's a quick one because I've got to get to my next client. This is really interesting. I think listening to NLE Choppa, he really typifies for me somebody who doesn't have the self-awareness to recognize that he is the problem in the equation. Okay. And he may have a point about maybe Jonathan Majors might have put 2 on 10 because of the Megan Good situation. We don't even know. That's your own perception, which actually then that perception also highlights yourself because you're thinking about it, right? So for you to, it could be also a projection because how would you know unless you know what his mind is, right? And for me watching the interview, I never felt like he was dangling Megan Good in your face. I can't even lie to you. Okay, because first and foremost, he has been married for the shortest amount of time. And Kev is married, and Kirk is married, and the gentleman who's across from him wasn't married, which is what you're talking about, the doctor, right? And so in that particular space, I'm like, what would be? We have to. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm saying to you, we don't see that in the interview, and this for me tells me everything about NLE Choppa. Not only is it zeal without knowledge, but it's also a youthful exuberance that lacks self-awareness. And those two combinations are deadly because you lose a lot of time doing stupid stuff and having battles you don't need to have. This should have been a case of NLE Choppa going right back to the beginning, watching that interview and going, okay, is there anything I did in that situation that maybe I rocked the boat that's maybe caused some of the reactions to me? And maybe this is actually also a great arena as well. Maybe the men should have actually said to him after, I don't know if they did, and said to him, bro, can't lie to you. The way you're coming off in that interview, you were rubbing us up the wrong way. Because only Ray J said it. So maybe it looked like only Ray J had a problem, but they all had a problem with you. We could all see they had a problem with you. And again, it's about he talks about respecting elders. I didn't see the respect. The respect would have been actually you just keeping not saying it, not that you can't talk, in the sense of you listening and not responding just because you want to respond, but actually understanding that everybody was sharing their experiences. So learn how to blend with the sharing of experiences. Okay, so I watched this whole interview and I'm like, where is it that he dangled Megan Good? Where did Megan because you complimented Megan Good, and that's also very cheeky for me because now you're trying to. We already know that there was a whole media print run about Jonathan Majors when it came to the Michael Ealy situation, right? Where Michael Ealy picked up Megan Good, which I think was absolutely diabolical for Michael Ealy. I'm going to tell that straight. No man picks up another girl. I'm going to be honest with you. So that by Michael Ealy was nasty work. You know what I mean? I think I did a video about it. And I said it was nasty work for Michael Ealy. I've never hugged another man's woman, another man's wife, and twirled her around. I've never done it in my life, and I would never do it. Why would I never do it? It's disrespectful. There are certain behaviors we know. So there was a whole narrative that was pushed on Jonathan Major at the time that he's jealous and all this stuff. He didn't even do anything. So for him then to push this narrative again about him being jealous in this situation or him trying to dangle the carrot when we never saw that, for me, it's just kind of diabolical work. And again, it's a failure to take accountability. And NL Choppa has shown us on several occasions. He's put a comment in the chat section. He's done a reply online, and he's replying again to the Jonathan Major situation. Are you looking for the clout? You know what I mean? Because what are we doing right now? Right? What are we doing right now? And so this is really again highlighting and exposing him. He says, I don't know why, I'm a little bit he's questioning why Kirk brought all those people together. And I'm like, first and foremost, listen, even if those men were not necessarily all Christians, neither are you. So what are you doing there? You're having a conversation, and that's the point. You missed it. Okay, I think that's the point. You missed it. It was a gathering and a meeting of minds. I could have sat in there. Okay, all right. I could have sat in there and they could have been Christians or non-Christians and I could still have a conversation with them because the conversation was about relationships. The conversation was about people. The relationship was about minds. The relationship was about experiences. I could have sat in there and gave my experiences without coming off looking contravening, coming off looking like I was conceited. I could have done that because you see, there's a way to, when people are given their opinions when people are given their experiences to empathize in a moment, we're not trying to correct. And he still hasn't got it. Up until now, we're 10 days in after this thing has been released and still going on. And I'm sure something else will come out after this too, right? And so you're showing your age. You're not just showing your age, because again, your age is not even, this is not an age thing. This is, you're deeply wounded. And because you're trying to gain maybe an affection or affirmation, you're now doing the Absalom thing. You know, in the Bible, we talk about Absalom. Absalom is the son that was hurt that then begins to go against the father. Okay. All right. Now, I understand in that moment when he said, read the Bible again, you might have felt offended. I can understand that perspective. You know what I'm saying to you? Because you're given a perspective. And he said, obviously, read it again. Very short, sharp. I get it. It felt like that. Again, I want you to watch the whole interview because some people haven't watched the interview, and then people come in my comments and try to defend it. I said, listen, watch the whole interview, not the clip. The men were already frustrated with NLE because we're 43 minutes in, and he keeps interrupting, keeps talking like he almost is the authority in the room when nobody was the authority. Everybody was given their experiences. And I want to do a video touching on the Kevin um Kevin, I was going to say Kevin Gates, but Kevin, I would say I want to do one on Kevin on stage, because when Kevin Stage talks about God not having his back and feeling like God isn't having his back, I think this is also a really good conversation to have amongst Christians, amongst non-believers too, about how there are periods of time in your life where you may feel like God hasn't got your back. You're not going to always, you see, when you read the Bible, you read it from a snapshot lens. You must understand that it's a snapshot. They don't know every thought. They don't denote every thought the person had. I am sure when Abraham, okay, I'm sure when Abraham was told that he would have a child, there were doubts that were happening. Why do I know that? Because he had Ishmael. So that was an actual action of his doubt. So what I'm saying to you is that when you get a snapshot of somebody's life and you don't get the full totality of it, and you get the Bible talking about the clear, intimate moments, you don't know about the days that we were doubting. So yes, I can understand when Kev on stage said he didn't feel like God had his back. I wasn't even going to correct him, because I was like, I get I know where you're coming from, and I know that you're in a grieving stage right now. So for you right now, it don't feel like God got your back, and it don't make sense, because when people pass away, it don't make sense. You know, I'm okay to hold that space. But coming back to my point in this scenario, I think this is youthful exuberance. I think this is a lack of self-awareness. I think NLE needs to work on just being able to be in a space where he's able to just kind of relax a little bit and recognize that you can be humble in receiving. And sometimes when you are, you know, that's a Don Kruger effect, where you don't, you know enough to be confident, but not enough to be an expert. And so you talk as if you are the authority, and you don't recognize that actually in that space, you probably need to just be able to listen a bit more, understand a little bit more, and just taking a bit more information before you start making your deductions. But we've all been there. We've all been at youthful exuberance, and I understand it. You know, the glory of young men is their strength. But I'll talk about this a little bit later on, especially about the God aspect, in terms of, is Jesus God? And I think this is really important. I've been studying this for the last few weeks. Jesus is God, and you need to know that, because that is a salvific aspect. Like, you saying that Jesus ain't God, for me personally, it's a salvific aspect. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus is not something that was created. It's not, Jesus is not somebody who's just a man. He is God. But that's another story for another day. We'll do that in a second. But appreciate you guys. Nice short one. I'll see you again soon. Much love, much appreciation.